Want to know a secret that will help your kids decode words that are undecodable, like was, of, want, some, love, come? It's called the thinking vowels Head-Bop trick. You don't have to memorize these words. Kids can just read them. They can read them. Kids should never memorize words they can read, and they can read those words. Now, I know what you're thinking. How? A word like of. You've got 2 letters, and neither one are making the sound that they should. So how in the world could you decode or read that word? All you have to do is change the facts. That's what the secrets do, is they just put meaning where there otherwise would be none. And all the meaning comes from what makes sense to kids. Social and emotional, universal human experiences and understanding that we all share. And one thing that we all have in common is sometimes we can't make up our minds, even when we know what we're supposed to do. Like the vowels, for example. They know whether they should be long or short. And if you use the secret stories, you know that the vowel trigger is Mommy E and babysitters. That works for simple words or multisyllabic words. Kids can easily know which way the vowel's going to go. But sometimes vowels still don't know what they want to do. Even though they know what they're supposed to do, sometimes they just sit there and they just think, ugh, should I be long? Should I be short? And while they're thinking, guess what sound comes out? And that's the sound they make. That's the schwa sound. That is actually the most likely sound default of vowels not making the sounds that they should. In words like of, or was, or or around, or pencil, or want, or what. All of the words, especially those high frequency, 1 syllable, stinking little sight word, heart word, memorize word group, don't have to be a nightmare for kids anymore. They don't have to be something that takes up rote memory space in the brain. They can actually become a playground for critical thinking and problem solving as kids work through the most likely or the next most likely thing that those letters are doing, just like we do with behaviors that our friends exhibit every day. The brain is a pattern-making machine. We don't want a rule and exception and a rule and exception. We want to be able to think through it. Most likely, next most likely, well, what else could it be? What else can I try? And we need a hierarchy of likelihood. So if we know that the likelihood is that in those 1-syllable high-frequency words, any vowel that's not making the sound that it should is typically diverting to the schwa or sound, all we need is a logical explanation for why. And it makes perfect sense that, like us, vowels sometimes just don't know what they want to do, even though they know what they should do. Sometimes they just don't feel like it, so they think about it. And that's the sound that pops out. We call it the thinking vowel Head-Bop trick. You can start using it tomorrow so that your kids can read hundreds of words that otherwise may confuse them. And the reason we say Head-Bop trick is that's how you prompt it. So if kids are trying to sound out a word like of or was or want, and they try to sound it out with the vowel making the sound they think it should make, like the sound, all you have to do to prompt that next most likely sound default is, that's it. And that sends them into where they can then attack the word with that next most likely sound. It's a great trick, and it's so, so easy. And if you're wondering, but what about the other little blurps in the word, like was, for example, or of? Of has 2 letters, and if they go they still aren't making a V at the end. Allow them a little bit of common sense flexibility. Kids are a lot more clever than we think, and we want them to think. So when a child goes, it doesn't take a brain surgeon for them to realize they just said of. Even if they didn't say of, they got close enough to get the word. And that's really the key to keeping too many cooks out of the phonics kitchen. When things become so overwhelming, they become off limits or delayed in terms of access to early level readers. We need kids reading. We need to get kids reading. Reading is a better teacher than we will ever be. The more opaque, the more complex, the more complicated, the more rules, the more details, the more exceptions, the more the delay to getting kids reading. Text is everywhere. Kids could read 24 hours a day if only they could see familiar faces in the words that are all around them. So don't stretch out the phonics code into a 3-year puzzle that they have to wait for to put together. Give them more of the code sooner. Just give it to them in a way that makes sense based on what they already know. The earlier developing areas of the brain, the social and the emotional connections that are already there are so easy to anchor what would otherwise be abstract, complex phonics skills. But now they're not. Now they're just simple, logical, easy to remember stories or secrets that you can share every single day, everywhere you see them. And you arm kids with more and more and more power over text, less and less and less memorizing of text. And at the end of the day, all of this is a vehicle for more critical thinking, because everything that we arm them with as a tool or as a strategy, they can use to attack text and think through the options, even with words they've never seen before. That's empowering. That's what we want to do and what we want to give our kids. So don't slow it down. Keep it simple, because it can be simple and it can be so, so, so much fun.